Hello. Ooh, that was not a strong intro. I just had my first sip of coffee just before going live. So let me take another sip. I'm taking a look at this for the first time right now. I'm seeing what's happening here in Kingsland, the same as you. And I'm taking an overhead view right off the bat. And what I would say is that the camp of Poitou, which is 903 and 1020 in turquoise, they looks like they got off to a nice start here territory-wise. And 903 has been a very good territory builder and a fast territory builder in the past. But before I give you an update on the last few days, let me go ahead and zoom in and see how the open field is looking, because that is the key. And I like what I see here. I really like what I see here. Let's look around a little bit more. And they're burning here. Okay, okay. They're burning here. The Lost is burning here. Here are a bunch of enemies. It's too bad that we're not... I kind of thought we were going to be in yellow to some of these. Okay, so this looks like a pretty key focus for 93. Here's their king, or one of their kings, who actually has not lost a lot of power in this KvK. He still has a lot of bullets in the chamber. But just as a reminder, we are allied with turquoise and red. We are against purple and blue. We have been battling with purple in particular for 21 days now. Okay, so there's two alliances in the purple camp. One is 2217, and they do have this area surrounded. They are burning 1020 here. Yeah, they're deep in 1020's territory here. How do things look down here? So here's Auvergne, who has been a pretty capable opponent. And unfortunately, it looks like, well, I mean, I guess I should have predicted it would play out like this. One kingdom, 313, is pretty much holding off, or trying to hold off Auvergne here. And I mean, it looks like they're holding them off reasonably well. This figured to be a very intense Orleans center zone battle. Yeah, so these guys are in yellow for me. Welcome everybody to the stream. Looks like I'm out on delay, and I have no idea why. Why am I on a delay? Anyway, I'm gonna just roll with this delay. It's not a great delay, but I'm not going to restart the stream. Okay, so let me give you guys a quick update about the last few days, because I think it really affects what we're seeing here in Kingsland. This is not a direct fight where one side just has to win and one side has to lose. Because we are still in this fight. Over the weekend, and over the last 4 days, basically, we started attacking a bunch of enemy forts right around this area. It was immediately after my last stream that was called Draining Enemies Live, where I just openly said we're gonna try to drain our enemies. because we know they don't want to fight us, but we can still fight them. And after that, there was a ceasefire. And then after that, everything really changed with our enemies, where they just did not really fight us. This vaunted open field that you could really see in full effect here. This just... So here's Fatty, here's the king of 2217. And I think his decisions will play a role in what happened over the last 4 days. But you can see they have just a massive open field. This camp here, massive open field. And for every pass opening, they turn out in huge numbers. But then as the days go by after the pass is open, they do get quieter. They do. But you can see that this is very difficult to deal with, the size of this enemy open field. But over the weekend, they just really stopped fighting. They would fill the forts, but we would double rally them and do full rallies, and we would get them burned. We broke into the passes over here. It almost looks like this happened a long time ago, but this has all happened in the last 3 or 4 days. We broke into this pass here, and then I assume Fatty made the decision to delete an LX fort, or I'm sorry, delete a JL-17 fort. Let me make sure this is still burning. Yep. He deleted a JL-17 fort that had all this territory over here. You can see like a little bit of remnants of the territory left. And so Addy Navo, our leader, he very quickly, as this territory was disconnected, he very quickly had us place a N70D fort over here, which we got up because the enemy's territory was disconnected and they couldn't reach it. And that was a hard outplay by Addy against Fatty. And, you know, we built this N70D fort, and then we used the flags from the N70D to build this N70S fort. And N70S is a lot of crystals. And so we, you know, over the last couple days, we've been over here burning towards this pass. And I mean, we're getting fairly close. I would say we are, we're a little over a day from getting through this and this fort. And we're also making huge progress over here in Nevers. You know, we've taken a bunch of territory here in Nevers. We're burning. I guess actually this one's going to be closer. As much work as I put in trying to get us into this pass, and this pass is convenient because it's near our allies over here. We're also burning here in Nevers. So the point being, at some point, we, a third kingdom, are going to be able to, you know, join this Orleans fight and get back into this fight if it's still going on. But that is an open question because, like I said, this enemy open field is pretty rough. It's pretty rough to deal with. And our allies are giving it a very good try here. And they definitely have a chance. You know, the enemy is so devastating right off the rip. They're so devastating when these passes open. But as time goes on, they do get quieter, for sure. I'm not going to go into what I think is happening too much. And it's certainly true that the enemy made a tactical decision or a strategic choice to not defend against us as we broke back into the zones of Champagne and Nevers. Because I just think they're planned to do exactly what they're trying to do now, which is they were just going to show up to Orleans in very, very big numbers, overwhelm the enemy's open field, swarm down some of these flags, and win so quickly that us reaching them won't matter. But I think certainly what happened over the weekend was a morale boost for our side. And, you know, it gives our team a different way to win. Our allies don't have to do it themselves. They just need to either wear down the enemy quite a bit or, you know, maintain a good grip on some territory in Orleans. And then we'll eventually be able to join them one way or another. I mean, we're going to get into Ile-de-France. We're going to get into Ile-de-France pretty freaking quick. I mean, we'll have to see what this flag brings. I don't think... Yeah, we're not going to be able to get past this fort, but still. We're right on the doorstep here. Here's our army. But let's sweat the action here. I think this is the key. Yeah, I mean, it's a tough enemy to deal with, for sure. It's a tough enemy to deal with here. But I'm going to share this stream out in a couple places. And yeah, we'll definitely watch what's happening. Be sure to throw a like on the stream. That helps me out quite a bit. I was up really, really late getting work done. I slept for like 3.5 hours. My alarm went off and I was like, I must have been in a deep sleep because I was like, where am I? I was like, I know there's something important, but I have no idea what it is. And then I quickly realized, oh yeah, Kingsland is opening. I'm going to live stream it. I was really tired and there was a part of me that wanted to go back to sleep. But what really pulled me out of bed was that I wanted to see what was going on too. You know, I just really wanted to see what was going on. I mean, clearly our enemies have gotten burned in a few spots too. And I think... I mean, so what the enemy does is they do the classic, you know, open field dominant strategy, which is they just move as one dominant ball from like one place to another. So here's the rally in on this flag. But like the thing about our enemy is like their rally and their garrison game is like not amazing. I mean, you're just seeing like a Nevsky... I assume it's Justinian. And you're seeing a Nevsky Justinian rally here. I mean, it could be swarmed a bit. You know, the enemy has... I mean, not a ton of open field out here. Or our allies have not a ton of open field out here. It's very... These are tough situations. And this thing's going down fast. This thing is going down fast. I'm not gonna lie, it's kind of nice to be a spectator for some of this. You know, for the first time after 21 days of fighting a very tough enemy. And it was really nice to just be like AFK burning stuff for a few days. Like just making some real progress. This was very much in our wheelhouse, is just being able to cover a lot of territory really quick because we do have a lot of garrison captains. We do have a lot of like very dedicated players where we could take shifts essentially of burning enemy flags and making progress with our own flags. But watching this Kingsland is giving me sort of a wake-up call, I guess, where it's like, oh yeah, that was the relaxing part of this, and me washing is sort of a relaxing part. But once we get back into this fight, there's just still a lot of enemy. There's still a lot of enemy army that we still have to get through. It doesn't feel like we've, you know, when you watch it like this, it doesn't feel like we've worn them down. We did a stat dump, or a scan of the stats last night, and I'm not going to show the stats just because I don't know. I haven't talked to anybody about whether that's something I should do, but the stats are like super similar. Like between our camp and between Poitu's camp, these stats are extremely, extremely similar. They have about 5% more kill points, and we have a couple million, and they also have a couple million more deads than us. But like the kill, basically, they got maybe 5% more kill points for the deads that they did compared to us. But let's take a look at this rally here. Tariq Pakal rally here. This is one of the main rally leaders for 1393. Yep, the panda guy. And yeah, the two enemy kingdoms here are 1393, which has 6 stars. There were Taiwanese kingdom. Looks like this rally's going down. Maybe? Well, this is a hard one to fill. This is a hard... You know, part of what's happening here is that these first flags are like very hard to fill because you just have all these resource tiles nearby and you don't have a lot of cities in place. You know, we're 90 minutes into Kingsland opening. Lelouch, welcome to the stream. We are not in Zone 6 yet. We're less than a day from getting into Zone 6. Okay, so here's another... Yeah, so the enemy is definitely, you know, putting it to our allies at this moment. And we knew this was going to be tough. We knew this was going to be tough. It's hard to hold a flag against this group. I mean, they're just a monster camp. Yeah, 1393 has 6 stars, and you know, I want to say that they have not lost to KvK in like a very, very long time. Looks like they haven't lost since KvK 6. They lost maybe KvK 1 and KvK 6, I'm guessing. And then their allies are 2217, who has 5 stars. Which is, and they're an international, like English, you know, American, European kingdom. So they cover each other's downtime perfectly. And, you know, we've been fighting them for 21 days. We've had most of our success at forts, you know, defending forts. Although we have at times launched offensives against them. And like I said, we've traded basically even in terms of deads to kill points. I'm sure we have spent more speed ups than they have as well to heal our hospitals. But, you know, I would like to think that we have worn them down. 2217 certainly does not have the rally punch that they had earlier in the KvK. They have been pretty hesitant to rally unless they have a very nice advantage in the field and, you know, against whatever cities we have nearby to reinforce stuff. But our allies are dealing with the wave of this enemy right now. And hopefully they get into a rhythm with it. They certainly have taken a lot of territory here. And it's going to come down to whether they can punch back, right? Like this zone is not big enough to just constantly cede territory. You have to be able to punch the enemy back. And it comes down to having really good numbers in the open field. And doing just that. I mean, here's Lost Pushing, right? Here's Lost Pushing right here. And their garrison game is nothing special either. They don't have a lot of meta garrisons. And as we look at these cities here, it remains to be seen how much their whales are going to reinforce stuff. I mean, that was a very nice burn there by Lost, and it looks like they burnt this flag a few times. Somebody like Green City hasn't really used much of their power this KvK. I mean, this Green City player hits super hard in the open field. 7 marches, incredibly good gear. Hits super, super hard. But, they're not like... Their stats are not amazing. So I think, one thing that has happened in this KvK is that... 1393 has saved up a lot of resources, troops, and even sort of defunct accounts that they can use in various ways. They've saved all this up for this KvK. Like, they've had a bunch of easy KvKs, and then they've gone really hard in this KvK. And, truth be told, they timed it perfectly. There was a 10-day vacation, or 10-day holiday in China and Taiwan, when the Zone 5's opened, 21 days ago. And so for the first half of this war, they've been able to... I don't think they had work for like the first half of this war. And so they've just been like a very daunting opponent to deal with. And what you have to do is you have to sort of... Well, I think the best thing to do is like divide and conquer. I think you need to like wear down the alliances and camps that can be worn down, which I would say would be LX-17 and Auvergne. You have to wear them down and just leave the Taiwanese kingdom on its own. And, we have tried to do that. And, our allies have already won the zone of terrain. They went up against 1393 in terrain and won that zone within a day. So they have fought this enemy before. They just haven't fought this enemy all at once. So it is a tough task, but you can see that, to some extent, our allies are up for this fight. Like, they're dealing with, or, they're putting a very big ball in the field and battling with this enemy. An enemy who undoubtedly has to be low on speed ups. Like, they still have resources left. And they still have a bunch of whales with troops left, but undoubtedly there must be many players on the enemy side who are low on speed ups. It just has to be the case. Sean, welcome to the stream. Are we winning or losing? I'll be very honest, Sean. I went to bed thinking that we were about 60% to win. As I watch it now, probably flip that. I'd probably say the enemy is 60% and we're 40%. It's really hard to say because I think the longer it goes, the better the odds for us. Because we're going to get into Zone 6 within a day. We're going to link up with our allies in maybe a little over a day. And I think that we can, but I think we can potentially make the difference in this fight. Because the enemy presence is overwhelming, and it's probably going to be overwhelming for the first, 36 hours. But it does slow down. It does slow down. And it's going to cost them some of what they have left to get through our allies. Some of these allied flags here. So we're going to have to just see how it goes. Let me share this stream out in a couple other places. Lots of viewers, which is fantastic. Flag going down quickly, which is not fantastic. I mean, I guess I guess this is about what I expected. And I think our allies are doing a good job of having one very strong ball here. And I mean, I think down here things seem pretty good for our allies. 2313 has a lot of very big whales. Yeah, so 2313 seems to be doing pretty good here down south. They have some very, very big players here. Like GVT. Well, GVT's power has dropped quite a bit, but they have a ton of... I think they're number 1 in KP in this KvK. And then Boom Boom 3 still has a ton of power left and has a lot of KP. So there's some very big whales in 2313 who can put in some work. There's still a lot of players from 903 who have a lot of power and a lot of speed ups left. And they have to absorb this first wave as best they can. And it's going to get easier. As time goes on, it's going to get easier for our allies, I think. As long as they have plenty left and they keep emptying their hospitals and coming back for more. Because there is an element of shock and awe in what our enemy does. They just overwhelm you so hard from the start that hopefully they take over the zone quickly. But as we can see, they're not able to sustain that hold for the entire war, right? I mean, we control Normandy. We took Normandy from the enemy. We largely control Champagne. And so Picardy, this really strong force that we're watching in Kingsland, they're at this point somewhat isolated to their start zone and to the interior zones of Ile-de-France and Orleans. Their allies have a strong foothold down here. Auvergne has a strong foothold here in Berry and in the southern part of Ile-de-France. But we have been able to stretch the enemy out. They're not amazing at fighting in multiple places at once. And a lot of strange things have happened on the Orleans map in past KvKs. We have seen a kingdom, 2489, and their allies. We've seen 2489 win Orleans, but be surrounded everywhere else on the map, and eventually lose. So, you know, we're still a long way from the finish line in this KvK. And which is a pretty wild thing to say after 21 days. Bomber, welcome to the stream. Good morning to everybody. I'm still getting going. If I sound tired, it's because I am. You know, I've been, oh, here, I can do something. I can do something here. I guess I should maybe be in, Lost Kingdom chat. Lucia's Grey Camp pushing out. I assume by Grey Camp you mean Brittany. Yeah, we were expecting an offensive from them, and they are pushing out, but it looks like it's pretty slow. I'm not seeing a fort drop or anything like that. I'm not seeing a fort drop from Brittany yet. But, you know, yeah, it looks like they're slowly breaking out. Yeah, so Brittany has the ability to re-enter this fight as well. I don't think they have a lot of offensive push left. That's kind of what I've heard about them. And it looks like we're going to be getting to this fight sooner than Brittany, for sure. And so, at some point, this does become 3 camps against 2. And I think that, you know, one issue that our allies have right now is that it's 4 enemy kingdoms against 3 enemy kingdoms on our side. Because La Marche down here has 1 camp that isn't really fighting. They have Kingdom 101 or 1001 down here that hasn't really done much. Although they certainly can, right? Maybe 1001 is just saving themselves. Looks like somebody just subscribed, so thank you very much. Let me pull that up real quick. Yeah, I mean, I like that, you know, I like that our allies are maintaining a reasonable open field front here. Because the enemy is like very, very strong in the open field and everything is focused around the open field. But, you know, Lost is a very good open field kingdom as well. And so they can just, you know, one thing they can do is they can keep fighting the open field and see if they last longer than the enemy. Because, you know, they may be fresher than the enemy. They may have more speed ups left. They may have more resources left. Energized, welcome to the stream. Or thank you for subscribing. Appreciate it. And good luck out there, Energized. I saw you out in the field a few minutes ago. Energized says we already popped 2 of their fort drops. Okay, yeah. Yeah, so I think 903 was somewhat ready for what Brittany was going to do. And so they popped 2 of the 4 drops. It looks like there's probably another one right here, huh? Yeah, I think this is a, yeah, this is another Brittany fort here. And, I mean, it's spotted. It's definitely spotted. Got a long way to go. I mean, they can reach this fort as well. They can reach this fort as well and pop it. Yeah, this promised to be a very, very intense Kingsland fight. The next few days promise to be quite intense. Just because I think both teams feel like they have a good chance of winning. This is not one of those Lost Kingdoms or these Kingsland zones that open and one team has like a huge advantage. Both teams feel like they can win. But, you know, certainly the enemy has gotten the better start here. Not in terms of territory, but just in terms of fighting. Fighting ability, certainly the enemy is stronger here at this moment. But, you know, what you do here in these situations is what I do anyway is I take it down a level. I probably say too much that's negative in moments like this. And I'll say things like, well, we have to play our best. Regardless of what's happening, we have to play our best type of stuff. Which I think some people take as negative. But I guess the reason I say those things is because for me, it's like not the most important thing. The first principle here is just that you fight at the best you possibly can and you do the things that are correct. You know, to like play the game the best you can as a team. So like in this case, you know, you need to try to get some cities. Well, I mean, some of these players, even though it's painful to like lose main account troops, like in a situation like this, where like you just ported to where you're going to port and you're not going to be changing your port spots, main account players have to try and fill these flags themselves. You know, the enemy doesn't have a ton of reigns either. Like, the enemy has open field, but they don't have a ton of reigns. So you have to just have your main accounts filling these flags, because your main accounts are the ones that are there. You need to direct your farms and your smaller players to like where the next fight's going to be. Direct them to where they need to bring their reigns. Because small players can certainly come from outside the pass and hop through cities and get reigns to the frontier. And then the harder part for me is deciding what we're going to do in the open field in situations like this. Like, do you just turtle? Do you just turtle and like not fight in the open field because you're getting bad trades in the open field? I think earlier in the KvK you do that, but I think here, I think what they're doing is basically correct, which is they just keep coming back. I don't think it's correct to, you know, what they could do and what I would sometimes do is I would like have us ball up like really deep in our territory and then push in. But I don't think that's correct. I think they're playing in tempo here. They're pushing forward. They're, you know, they're probably going to clear this enemy ball as it overextends here. And, you know, they're clearing some players who are undoubtedly low on speed-ups. Undoubtedly. Undoubtedly, some of these 2217 players are low on speed-ups. I mean, you know, there's a decent chance they're going to, like, make me eat those words. But, you know, our kingdom is fairly low on speed-ups. You know, I'm fairly low on speed-ups. Although I do have a few moves left. One of which I'll show you later in the stream. So I mean, everyone came out very strong from the beginning, but things can look a lot different a few hours later when some of these players do run out of speed ups. But yeah, I mean, it looks like our allies are going to cede a little bit of territory here. And, you know, all credit to the enemy for coming out very strong here. I think you have to say that some mistakes were made by the enemy in letting us get back into Champagne. At the very least, is this open yet? No, not yet. At the very least, they're losing their Hurons here in Champagne, so they're going to be losing 5% attack and 5% defense. And because they had to readjust so much territory and set up a fort wall against us with JX-17, they also lost this circle. This plus 30% healing speed. You know, they don't have that 30% healing speed for the Orleans fight. And we're getting closer to the zone. So I think, you know, they have made objective mistakes that has given our side an objective bump in our win probability. But all credit to them for fulfilling the, I would say, key part of their plan, which is, hey, we're going to rest for 4 or 5 days. Let's recover. Let's not waste our resources on Bourbon Camp, which is my camp. Let's have everyone show up for Kingsland opening. And let's overwhelm the enemy there. So, you know, all credit to the enemy for having that plan and to this point executing it. Although it is worth noting that here again, Lost and friends are pushing them back here. And I'm sure there's a rally on this flag, but the next rally is not going to succeed because they are being pushed back. And so hopefully this is Lost's wheelhouse right here, because they are a very strong open field group. And they're being assisted by 1020. Although it looks like 1020 is kind of like dealing with their own stuff here. They're dealing with a lot of players from 2217 and 1393 in their own territory. And you kind of like fight where you teleported. It just sort of comes down to like where you teleported. So, you know, there are some... Yeah, there's a lot of like big 2217 players down here. Nathapath hits very hard, still has a lot left. Levitz is sort of one of their main leaders and trash talkers, I would say. I haven't really... Yeah, and so Steven, another big hitter, but also a trash talker. Made in Hell has put in a lot of work this KvK. Groot hits very, very hard in 2217. Definitely one of the thickest players here. You can see that the Groot has like a very new player ID. Lots of kill points. And has done pretty good in Arc also. I'm not quite sure where they're from. I thought I looked this up at one point, but... Yeah, so it looks like they were in 2685. I mean, there's obviously been like a very good recruiting job done in 2217, where they brought in a lot of good players, big spenders. And, you know, they have a network of what are called pilots that play their accounts as well. And I think 1393 is a bit different. I think 1393 is just like an old kingdom. So like an old Taiwanese kingdom. Energized in the chat says, open field trades looking pretty good for me, us so far. Yeah, the trades, you know, listen, like, they overwhelm you, but the trades are not necessarily, like, amazing here. You know, speaking about 1393, I don't think 1393 was constructed in the same way that 2217 was constructed. I think 1393 is just a very old kingdom. I believe they are primarily Taiwanese. And, you know, they have been around for a very long time. They've been winning all their KvKs. And they're just this, like, legacy juggernaut. This legacy juggernaut that has not had a lot of tough KvKs. And they definitely make some mistakes. Like, don't get me wrong, 1393 is just like a... They're just a tidal wave. Like, there's really not much finesse to what 1393 does. It's just a tidal wave. And, you know, the sad face ratio is often, like... was often in our favor, but the enemy just kept coming back because they just had so much. They just had so much. And, you know, I'm gonna try to stick to chronicling what happens in this fight during this stream. I'm probably going to inevitably stray into a bit of whining about the state of Rise of Kingdoms, because this was just a weird war to fight in. It was not an entirely satisfying war, just because it's like they just had so much more than us. You know, they just had so much freaking more than us. They had more people online when the passes opened. They had more resources. And they seemingly had more troops, quite frankly. I mean, as much, you know, the most deads have been taken by 1393. Like, it might not be an extreme difference, but let me just at least tell you how many deads they've taken versus how many deads like our kingdom has taken. I probably have to scroll up a ways because our alliance chat was just insanely active all morning. I actually had to mute our Discord in the middle of war today because I was trying to get my work done, and like I would just get nonstop notifications. Yeah, so 1393 has taken 500 million deads in this KvK. Our kingdom 770 on the other hand has taken 400 million. And we're the two highest. So they've taken 100 million more deads than we have. But, you know, but they still have more troops left than us. Like, they undoubtedly still have more troops left than us. In a lot of these very big whales. And, you know, the human part of this war, you know, there's a very, very human... Okay, so it looks like this flag did get burned again here. Now we're going to watch Tingbeth walk all the way back to their city, because no one's controlling Tingbeth. I assume Tingbeth just swarmed this. So what they do is they're just sending Tingbeth... someone is sending Tingbeth city to swarm, and then they're just, like, AFK walking back to the city. Because, you know, because there's a human element to a war that lasts 21 days. There is undoubtedly a massive human element to these wars, where, like, all of our lives are affected. You know, I've had multiple stretches where I stayed up for 20 plus hours. It didn't feel good. It was stressful. It was, you know, in many ways, this was a, like, stressful, challenging, somewhat, you know, revealing way to go through 3 weeks of my life. You know, we're all trying to, like, work with one another. You're dealing with ups and downs as part of a team. You're dealing with everyone's personalities. You're dealing with good vibes and not so great vibes. You're making a ton of decisions. You know, I don't envy the decisions that the turquoise camp right now is having to make about like what flags to defend, where to defend, where to bring their ball. I don't envy them that at all. But you're dealing with all those things. And at times the enemy feels very human. The enemy is human. I mean, I have to give the enemy like all the credit for their efforts. It just feels like they came into this so much more prepared than us. And the thing is, if you don't have like extra resources and extra speed ups, then there's no reason for you to hire a pilot. And that's why in our kingdom we don't have like almost any pilots, is because we only have enough resources and speed ups for ourselves to play our accounts. But if you are a whale who spends a lot of money in this game and has a ton of speed ups and has a ton of resources, then you have a reason to hire a pilot, because when you're offline, that pilot can use those speed ups and resources that you won't use, that you wouldn't use in just your own time. And that's to just go along with all the advantages that whales already have. Especially in a map like Orleans, where like open field is just so dominant. And so it's just like a little bit unreal to fight these enemies at times. Where it's like we tried to trade with them very well, but there's at this moment it's like kind of hard to see, like, did we actually wear these guys down? Like, the stats say we did. The stats say that we traded essentially evenly with them. We were slight losers in trades, like 5%. Maybe we were 10% losers on the speed ups, maybe. But like Energize said in the chat, the trades have been pretty good for them so far. I mean, you're seeing here a pretty good sad-faced ratio for the turquoise side. Lambo says no pilots here. Yeah, Lambo goes very hard in the paint. And I know that Lambo, well, here's what I'm going to say. Pilots help in the field. But I don't think pilots help from a leadership perspective. If anything, I think pilots make a leader's job tougher, quite frankly. Because you're having to motivate and coordinate like way more people. And you're having to motivate and coordinate people that you probably don't even know. And so I think that part is challenging for leaders. And I think we've certainly seen like we have seen the human impact of this war on the leaders of the opposing alliance, or of the opposing camp, right? Like, I think Fatty and whoever else decided to like stop fighting us. I think they made a decision that was objectively incorrect, but maybe it's something they needed to do. Maybe they needed those days off, right? Maybe they needed the weekend off to either just rest their brain or get their lives in order. I took the weekend off. Like, I had a ton of work over the weekend, and so I really didn't play. But, we had other people who pushed the issue. We had people like Noller and Benny who did a bunch of rallies on enemy forts and, kept the action up for us and allowed us to break back into the zone. And I know that Lambo, Lambo has like not a ton of leaders in his alliance, and he talks about on one of his recent live streams, he talked about how he slept for a while, and then he woke up at some ungodly hour of like 2 a.m. or something, or maybe even midnight, to sort of relieve one of the other leaders. I think her name was Kat. I think he said he relieved Kat, and that's just human beings like putting parts of their lives on hold in order to play this game. And I mean, look, the pilot thing. Look, I have piloted an account on stream. I literally piloted an account on stream, and I showed how much impact a pilot can have on a certain, one day of fighting. But it's just a little bit unsatisfying. It's a little bit unsatisfying to fight against a group that like shows up in massive numbers when the pass is open, and then those numbers slowly dwindle as the days go by. But then sort of, you know, at least in some zones, get beat by those players anyway. So they're swarming here the Xeno Hera. You know, this is very standard Picardy action here. Is take over the open field and then rally plus swarm down a flag. It looks like Gohan here is you know, it looks like Gohan here is trying to heroically reign this thing. I think there needs to be more reigns here. I think that 903 needs to get more people sending marches to these nearby cities to throw in these flags. But I can totally understand why 903 is like focused on something else. They're focused on trying to win this open field. They're focused on trying to win the open field against this enemy. And I don't think that's a bad strategy. But I think if they're going to do that, they really need to focus on like LX17. So is this just all? Yeah, so I mean LX17 is down here. It looks like 1393 has a lot more territory than LX17. But I mean, if you're going to wear somebody down, it has to be LX17. Because LX17 just has less left. And their players, a lot of their players are at, I mean, they still have some people left, but a lot of their players are at this like 70 to 75 million mark. Some are even lower. And so they just don't, they're not going to swarm. Like, I don't think these players are really going to swarm that much. I don't think Maidenhell or even Steven is really going to swarm that much anymore. Or Acker, Levi. Saul hasn't really swarmed much in general. So, I mean, if you're going to wear somebody out, I think it's going to be 2217. But I mean, yeah, there's a burn here. I mean, this is sort of what's crazy, right? It's like they're like dominating the open field, but they just can't even like keep some, like they can't cover enough stuff to like defend this flag, right? You know. So here comes a rally from Lost. Looks like a why can't I click on this rally? Is it a Huo? No. Looks like a Nevsky Joan rally here. Pretty good push here. Pretty good push here from Lost. Yeah, our Chinese member here says you should consider migrating to competitive B through DC. It may provide better experience. You know, I think one thing that I've learned from this KvK here is that I probably like the experience. As I suspected, I probably like the experience in A Kingdoms more than Imperiums. Because I think this is an even more of an issue in Imperiums. Just because the spending level is higher in Imperiums. And again, like, if you spend a lot, that's when you can have pilots. It doesn't make sense to have a pilot as a low spender, because you just don't have the resources and speed ups to support it. So it's like a leveraged advantage that big spenders have. As if they don't already have enough advantages. But I mean, as far as like migrating, I'm not going to migrate. I mean, I'm very loyal to 770, but we certainly have to decide whether we want to move up or move down or stay where we are. Because, you know, this war, I don't know. This war just comes down to whether we win or lose. If we win, I'm going to have very good things to say about it, and if we lose, I'm going to have bad things to say about it. But even if we win, I will be honest about the fact that it hasn't been like the most satisfying war. Like, it just has felt kind of weird. Felt kind of janky. It just felt a little janky. The enemy was just like so incredibly well prepared for this. But you know, that's credit to them for like being well prepared for what ended up being the war that they needed to be well prepared for. Because I think as a group, as a collective allied group, I think we have given them a very tough time. You know, we have stayed in the fight. We fought them in Champagne. We fought them in Nevers. We fought them in Ile-de-France. We put just under 100 billion KP on them. And they are also just under 100 billion KP against us. And our allies, to their great credit, they won terrain very quickly. And they gave us an objective... They objectively made this thing even going into Kingsland. And it feels like 903 is feeling okay about this. I mean, they're burning here. They're burning the enemy here. They're burning the enemy here. So this is just going back and forth. And part of the way I'm talking is just how someone sounds after fighting for 21 straight days. And setting markers for 21 days. And taking a lot of L's. And having, you know, some dubs, but more L's than dubs. And, you know, I'm just like... I've never rooted for allies more than I'm rooting for our allies right now. I never have. And at the same time, I'm just checking... I'm checking these forts to make sure they're still burning. Because we do want to get in this fight. And we are getting closer and closer to getting into it. I think we're building a fort down here also. Yeah, we're about to finish a fort here in 70H. I'm not really going to look at this too much. Because I, quite frankly, don't even know what the plan is. Mr. George says that's the feeling of losing. Seth says, hope in the future 770 and 903 can meet again to settle the score. I thought this was the KvK you're going to fight 1903. Yeah, well, I will give 1903 a lot of credit about diplomacy here. Because, I think they were supposed... I think originally Picardy wanted to ally with 1903. That was the original ally configuration. And I think 1903 essentially said that was, like, way too easy of a KvK. That was too unbalanced of a KvK for their side. And so I think 1903 literally switched sides to ally with us instead. And I give them a lot of credit for that. And, you know, I don't know. I mean, we might fight in the future, but as far as, like, any sort of grudge match... I mean, I don't know. For me, it's gone, right? Like, I sort of look very fondly on 903 at this point, because they're trying to carry the torch that we lit 21 days ago. And, you know, I think they're doing a pretty good job. Like, so here's some movement. Here's some ball movement here by 1903. They're coming down here, probably to attack this flag that's being built. Although they're gonna have to do it real quick. If they're gonna take this flag down, it's gonna have to be real quick. Banks, welcome to the stream. Energize says we always want fighting KvKs, no matter if it's getting too tough for us. Yeah, I mean, Energize, we've had two very tough KvKs in a row, right? The last KvK with 1718 and 1818 was a very tough 9 or so day KvK. And this one's just another scale. This one's on a whole nother scale right here. As the king of our allies, Uni said a few days ago, this KvK caused emotional damage. The last KvK was like last war we had was like my favorite KvK of all time. Best war I've ever been in. You know, it was a great fight. We had a great ally who did a lot of the leading, and so there were times where like the pressure was off of us, and we could be like the support alliance while 1718 led the way. And so that allowed me to stream a lot. It allowed us to... It allowed leaders of 770 to have less stress and less pressure on them. And we also kind of felt like we were winning the whole way in that last KvK. You know, even after the first day, we had certainly won the first day of that war. And so just subconsciously or very quietly in your own mind, you feel like you have a very good chance of winning. And that feeling basically persisted the whole way. Whereas this KvK, it kind of felt like we were losing the whole time. And morale was a little bit low the whole time. And, you know, that... Okay, so they destroyed a flag up here. Yep. So, you know, let me get this camp name right, because I want to just call them by their camp, because it is two kingdoms. Poitou they're still trying to ride this first wave. And it seems like they're getting it a little bit more under control here. You know, not totally under control, and it looks like this flag is going to get built. Because they are getting pushed back here. Here's a very big fight. And a lot of sad faces from 903. A lot of sad faces from 903. You know, one thing that I learned, and the thing I'm reacting to here is Energize saying that they always want tough fights. Because the thing is, you do learn a lot in a tough fight. You learn a lot. Especially in a loss, which we may win this KvK, but we certainly lost various zones, and we lost various fights. And you learn a lot. And one of the things I learned, it was kind of on this one random fight we had in Ile-de-France, is that, you know, I think our allies got into a rhythm up here. Their open field rhythm was up here. And then I'm sure a leader made what is in many ways the correct decision to come down here and help 1020 and maybe try to take this flag out. But when you move the ball in a way that sort of like disrupts the rhythm of what your team is doing, it can be a little bit jarring. And people sort of resist it. Like people like naturally resist like the they like naturally resist change that's sort of like making them less comfortable. Like we were basically fighting Auvergne. We were in Ile-de-France and we were fighting Auvergne down here, which is kind of like the softer of the two enemies. And I wanted us to defend a fort against 1393. And so I tried to like redirect the ball. I tried to like move the ball somewhere totally different. And really only like half the people listened to me because the other half was just like chilling, getting good trades, and they didn't want to move. Like even though the correct thing was to move, they didn't want to do it. And I think on some level right there, there was just like a there was a disruption of Poitou's flow, of 903's flow, and it looks like they definitely lost that open field engage right there. I mean, you're just seeing very big numbers here, right? Like after 21 days of fighting, and after trading evenly with the enemy for 21 days, Camp Picardy still has a huge ball. Like they just still have huge presence. They just still have huge presence. Like I would dare say this is between these two camps, these two kingdoms. This is like Imperium level presence, I would say. Perch says you will win, ? How? Yeah, Perch, I mean, I don't think you're really paying any attention to what I'm saying. I gave a win probability earlier. So, after 21 days of dealing with various people from these two kingdoms, I have to say, like, this very annoying tactic of, like, establishing a false premise and then talking trash off of that false premise is just, like, really annoying. You know, when it started, I said that these kingdoms were inactive in Eve of the Crusade. And they turned that into, oh, we're inactive. Why are we kicking your ass, right? It's like, no, I said you were inactive in Eve. I didn't say you were inactive kingdoms. I didn't say you were inactive in war. So why are you creating a false premise to then talk trash off that. You know, there was another thing where it was like, I supposedly said we were as good as like 1718 or 1818 because like in the opening to a video, I said we're in a KvK with 1718. This is a KvK with some of the best A kingdoms in the game, and like I maybe listed like 1718, 1818, and I may have put 770 in that list as well. And somehow that premise became we said we were as good as 1718 and 1818, which I never once said, never once thought. And again, that became a false premise. Like, you guys said you were one of the best A kingdoms in the game, and you're getting your ass kicked. Like, lol, so hilarious. Like, it's just, you know, the combination of like huge advantage and then toxicity is just like annoying. Like, genuinely freaking annoying. So this flag's healing, but so very good. It's like very good tempo from 1393 here, where they won this fight down here. They all rotated up here as this rally was coming, and now I'm sure they're going to get a burn here. This is a critical burn actually. I think this flag may go down because of this burn. They obviously have a back flag, so they're not going to lose much territory. But you know they, well, I mean, there's a bit of a push here. Like, you can always swarm these things down. And it looks like they're swarming it. It looks like they're swarming this rally. I mean, Awaken made a very valiant try there. I mean, it's yeah, so the rally goes down. It was a painful defense there. Well, it looks like they're still swarming, right? So there's probably like some AFK player here who's still swarming, right? You know, there's probably some player who's like barely being controlled by a human being that was still swarming that thing, you know, 30 seconds after the rally finished. There's Energized, who's in our chat. Yeah, Seth, it's good to hear from you. Good luck in the fighting today. Hope you're enjoying your time in 903. Sorry we couldn't help you. Sorry we couldn't help ease the transition to 1903, Seth, and like beat Picardy and Champagne and make this a more smooth, make this KvK a more smooth experience. They just proved to be tougher than expected, and they are still very tough to this day. 21 days later, they are still very tough to deal with. LaQuest says, bro, having 1001 as a campmate is really the worst. Yeah, so 2313 is kind of fighting on their own. 2313 is by themselves here because their campmates are 2000 or 1001. And Auvergne has proven to be a pretty strong camp, actually. And I think this fight down here, although I'm not watching it quite as much, I think this fight down here definitely matters. Like, it definitely matters. 2313 has to, you know, they have to break even with Auvergne here and hold this territory so that Auvergne cannot come up and help against Turquoise. So 2313 has their work cut out for them as well. Although, you know, 2.5 hours into this, it's pretty reasonable, I would say. I'm looking for the flag that's here. Oh, here it is. Yes, I mean this flag has not been touched. But let's go back over here to the main fight. So this flag eventually burned? Did I miss the burn here? Oh my gosh, did I miss the burn on this flag? I wonder how this flag got burnt. Because we saw the rally die. And so I'm really and then Lost has the field here too. So I wonder how this flag got burnt. I guess they burnt it and walked away. But yeah, I mean, to purge, to answer your bad faith annoying question, how will we win? We'll win by our allies holding territory in Kingsland, by our allies getting solid trades against the enemy and continuing to wear them down, and then we will re-enter the fight, and then we will have 3 camps in this fight, while the enemy only has 2. And that will hopefully make enough of a difference for us to win the KvK. That's how we will win. Oh, the rally didn't go down, it burned the flag, but got filled again with Hera and someone swarmed it. Okay, gotcha. Let me just check Discord real quick, make sure I'm not missing anything. So the 2 balls are just staring at one another across the battlefield at this point. The next stage in this fight is going to be 93 attempting to put up new flags. 93 will, I mean, maybe they won't. Maybe they won't build a flag right here. They're not getting a lot of territory because this back flag is here. So 93 may decide to put a flag right here and get a little bit of space. Or they may not. I wonder if Energize's city is on territory. I guess it is over here, right? I wonder if Energize is on territory. I would think so. I would think he's on territory. It wasn't annoying or bad faith, but you said you learned from losing KvKs, and although we will probably win. I did not say that. I did not say although we will probably win. I did not say that. I think I said although we could still win. I mean, if I said probably, then I sort of misspoke, and I'm trying to like have good morale for our team, but I don't think I said we will probably win. I literally said earlier in the stream that it looked like it was 40% us, 60% the enemy. So, you know, when I don't think I said we would probably win. I don't think that's correct. Yeah, I don't know. It's tough, Burge, because I think I've been like quite honest about a bunch of things, and I've said, you know, I literally said earlier in the stream that it looked like it was 60% the enemy, 40% us, and never once have I thought in the last hour I have not thought like, oh, we're probably gonna win this. I never once thought it, and so like it's very hard for me to think that I said. It's very hard for me to think that I said it. And so I'm like, you're making me question whether I misspoke. but like quite frankly, I probably didn't, and so I'm still like responding to something that I didn't like. I'm responding to your reaction to something that I literally didn't say and certainly didn't think. Just like I never said these camps were inactive. I said they were inactive in Eve of the Crusade, or the least active in Eve of the Crusade. And then I have to react to like me calling their camps, their kingdoms inactive, you know? It's like you're making me respond to something I never freaking said. So this flag's probably going to go down to, again, not a ton of territory. And we're just kind of seeing the ebb and flow of battle here. I mean, these are the flags that are really interesting to me right now, is how these flags get defended here. I mean, the wild thing is that flags are burning on both sides. Like flags are so vulnerable. They're so vulnerable in Orleans at this point, with three auxiliary skills on each march, that flags are literally just burning on both sides. And so we'll have to see like which side can get new flags up and actually take territory, which 903 is already, or sorry, Picardy, I'm going to say purple and turquoise. Purple has already built a flag here and gotten a bit more territory. Mr. George says, you guys just had an uphill battle since the beginning with one of your alliances not playing for a few days. Yeah, definitely, you know. And we've not been able to link up with our allies at any point. Yeah, I mean, it has definitely been an uphill battle the whole way. No doubt about it. And you know, it really has been very tough. It has been very tough. And for me personally, like I think I handled it well in certain ways. I think I fought very hard even when we were losing. And I tried to have us get as good of trades as possible for like many hours, like just making sure things were reinforced, taking advantage of being on defense and forcing the enemy to like burn a well-defended flag. But at the same time, I think that I have not had great vibes. I think even in this stream, you're seeing that my vibes are not that great, right? I'm pretty grumpy. I'm pretty grumpy. So, and you know, the vibes of other people have been better, and like we've had a lot of people who like hung out on voice chat like pretty much every day. Like we've had a voice chat going like every single day of this war. And I think that's been like extremely good for morale. And you know, I go on voice chat some of the time, but I'm like a pretty big introvert. And so I do get burnt out from all that socializing. And so there have been days where I like haven't gone on voice and people have been like, "Hey Brian, why aren't you on voice? Is everything okay?" Da 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 da. And I'm just like, man, I'm resting, you know? I'm just resting emotionally a little bit. Can you tell us what is the best garrison auxiliary skills? You know, it's something I need to look at. It's something I need to really look at. I put the El Cid on here, which I think is like really good. El Cid gives you 25% extra damage once you have 50% or less of units remaining. My only question is whether I should be using YSS instead of one of these skills. And I honestly, I feel like I'm missing. Oh yeah, no, I did have a tier list. I had like a really nice tier list last KvK that I didn't necessarily look at a ton this time. I sort of need to get a sense of what YSS's best skill is. I guess it's this third skill. Although this fourth skill is really good too with the increased counterattack. So I mean, so here's the thing that I have to do. Like I've been using YSS as like a third garrison, like Jad YSS is a third garrison, as we have been burning through Champagne. Because you know, there's just been times where I have to cover a bunch of stuff. Right, like I'm covering 2 garrisons right now. Not that these flags have been touched in quite a while. Here, let me get in this flag here. Kind of a perfect example. You know what? I'm not even gonna put gear on the Jadwiga. If they swarm this thing, they swarm this thing. But yeah, I have to like decide. For garrison, in this situation, in like, okay, so here are the heals on the 93 flags. And it looks like Lost is pushing on this, so a bunch of heals on the Lost flags here. Unfortunately, it looks like Loki is probably going to have to port, and Death might have to port as well. So some pretty key territory here being lost with after that Scipio garrison in this flag. And it looks like they're having trouble getting to this flag right now. But what I have to do with the auxiliaries for garrisons is I have to decide if like I need to switch some of these skills. Like I might need to switch the Saladin for the YSS. The Saladin third skill for the YSS third skill. Or maybe put the YSS skill on instead of the El Cid. I mean, you kind of just want to be as tough against counterattack damage as possible in Orleans. You know, you kind of want, it almost feels like when you're defending flags, I need to get rid of this El Cid and use the El Cid one. I mean, I certainly think that Richard's second skill is the best for garrison. I think one could argue that YSS's third skill is super good. I mean, this is basically as good, if not slightly better than El Cid's. This is slightly better than El Cid's fourth. So, I mean, you could put YSS third, but the Saladin third is also very good. 30% reduced skill damage and 20% reduced counterattack damage. But I would say probably the best garrison combo, like in it overall, is going to be for a fort or versus a rally. I would say the best is Richard second, YSS third, El Cid or Belisarius fourth. But for this KvK, for like getting swarmed in a flag, I would say it's probably Richard second, Saladin third, and then YSS fourth with... Oh no, this is not full increased counterattack damage. This is just a 10% chance to activate a shield. 20%. Yeah, so actually, YSS's third skill is a lot better than his fourth. So yeah, I would say the best garrison is going to be Richard second, YSS third, El Cid fourth. I think I'll probably get rid of the Saladin or put it on somebody else. You should make a video about it. There's not a single good video about auxiliary skills. Yeah, that's a pretty good idea, actually. That's a pretty good idea. The problem is that it's so situational. I think ultimately what's useful is to get a tier list, to find a tier list of the skills. That's what was like really useful for me last KvK. And I haven't been able to quite find it for this one. And so I basically just put the same skills back on the same commanders. But I think you want a tier list that just shows like how good each skill is. Because certain commanders will have like one skill that's like you know, S tier, then another one of their skills will be like B tier. So it looks like the 2217 ball is heavily leaning on 1020 down here. And I think that's becoming a big part of these first few hours is whether turquoise can hold this middle area here. Because the top part here between Lost and 1393, you know, it feels like Lost is holding fairly well here. They've at least gotten a decent number of burns and have not really lost much territory. Oh, so they didn't need to build another flag. They just needed to this flag they had just extended to this additional territory. Everybody be sure to throw a like on the stream if you're enjoying the content. That's a great way to support my stream and get it out there for more people. I apologize for not streaming more often during this KvK. I wish I could have. I wish I could have streamed more often, but especially when you're losing, it's just like you know, it's stressful enough, right? It's hard enough when you're losing an engagement to just fight and be one of the leaders. And, you know, at the end of the day, when you're losing and it's very hectic, like I certainly can't be talking to the stream. I have to be, you know, talking to the team and you know, talking with others, communicating. I mean, communication is like a very, very big deal when you're losing. I think that's like that's one of the things I wish maybe we had been better at in certain situations. Is like when we're losing, when it's getting really tough. Sometimes our voice chat would get very quiet, and it'd only be like very, very few people talking, and those very few people had to like really just kind of say everything. And I get that part of it is like you're clearing the chat for like the most important things to be said. But I mean, personally for me, when I was like in certain situations when I would be like the only person talking on voice, it got kind of lonely. Like it kind of felt like, oh, they're putting like all this pressure is being put on me at this moment. And I just think like someone talking and someone being there to like bounce ideas off of is like very, very important. And I'll give credit to my friend Six, because I can remember in the past in certain KvKs, in like one particular Kingsland opening, when we were coming through this pass over here, like the pass on the upper left. Remember, like the voice chat was very quiet. I was doing most of the talking, but Six was like also chatting with me like the whole time, and it just made me feel like, oh, you know, like someone really has my back. And I'll give a lot of credit to Uni, who is the king of 2263, which is our allies. And they've really been playing better and better as this thing has gone on. But Uni will often, like, sometimes I'll be talking out loud in voice. And, like, I'm not the best at territory building and stuff like that. And so Uni will just sort of, like, give his thoughts as well. And then that allows me to, like, maybe adjust my thinking or adjust what I'm saying. And then you just kind of, like, get this back and forth going that, at least for me, leads to better decision making. And, you know, you also have to communicate, like, point out things that are not correct. Like, people need to point out if a garrison captain is not correct. People need to point out, possibilities for different flags. There have also been people who have just, like, messaged me saying, like, here's what I think we should do. You know, like, Jon Snow a few days ago was saying, like, you know what, I think we should set a time to attack. And, you know, I think we sort of did that. We didn't necessarily have to set an exact time to attack because we just sort of, like, the enemy wasn't, like, defending really. But, you know, Jon Snow's reached out a few times with, like, thoughts. Shoto has reached out with a lot of, like, territory planning ideas. And just for me personally, I find that stuff, like, really, really helpful, right? Because you just, like, you have people, like, actively helping you in situations that are super tough to deal with. Like, when you're on the back foot here, like Turquoise is, these situations are super tough to deal with. Super duper tough to deal with. And the best thing you can have is you can have a bunch of people talking, saying very relevant things. Now, the thing that I do wrong is I just talk about too much stuff that's not useful. You know, I complain about too many things. I say too many things that are demoralizing. You know, I complain about the opponents too often. And I don't think those things are useful. I don't think silence is all that useful, but I don't think a lot of what I say is useful either. So, I mean, it's just like, yeah, it's been a pretty wild experience. It's definitely been a pretty wild experience. And I wish that I had chronicled more of it for you, but I'm glad that I've been able to do at least some live streams. Like, I did the live streams both Friday afternoons, not knowing what I was gonna say, not knowing how good or how badly it would go. But it's giving a real window into what this KvK has been like. And hopefully that has been valuable for people. I think this one was definitely worth chronicling, right? And I'll definitely do some videos about it. I don't know how amazing the footage I got was, but there's definitely some videos to be made on this one. But I think ultimately, like, the live stream is the real stuff because it's just raw, it's unedited, and you know, I think this KvK has to be, at least from our side. I don't know how the other side feels about it. I'll be curious to hear if their side was very like if they had a happy vibe the whole time, or if this was like a brutally annoying KvK for them. But from our side, I mean, I just think it has to be raw. And the only thing, really the only thing that I'm not, so let's take a look at this here. The 903 ball is very much fully here, and they're going to swarm this down. You know, they're largely doing the same thing as the enemy, although I think in this case it's really like they did it with speed. The enemy was a little bit out of position here, and is just not going to get to this flag fast enough to defend it. So a very good attack by 903 there, but at the same time, it's because the enemy is somewhat focused up here on this new flag. They're trying to get this new flag up. They still have 20 minutes to go. Seth says communication is everything. Nick says greetings, Seth, slay them. Looks like that's Demi from 903. And then it says a couple more hours, they should hopefully hit downtime on enemy side. Honestly, Demi, I don't think there's going to be downtime all that soon. I don't think there's going to be downtime all that soon. I mean, 1393 may log off, some of them, but I think 2217 is going to stay online for many hours. I think the first 20... I think the enemy shows very good presence. Maybe not for the entire first 24 hours, but for a lot of it. I mean, I will say that in Ile-de-France... So Ile-de-France opened at around the same time. It opened at like 15 UTC. And what happened in Ile-de-France is that around maybe like 22 or 23 UTC, it started to get a little bit quiet. 2217 started to get a little bit more quiet around day change. And then we were like kind of burning. We were making some progress here. And then the Taiwanese came over and helped. And then around 4 UTC is when 2217 like reappeared in like massive numbers, right? But I think everyone's going to be like very pumped up for this Kingsland. I don't think downtime is going to really function the same way it did earlier in the KvK. I think everyone recognizes the importance of these next 12 hours or so. But very big fight here at this new building flag from 93. And we'll see if Lost is able to get to this flag and take it down. Right now they're being kept off the flag by the imposing ball of Purple Camp. What I was going to say is that the one thing that I have not, the one thing that's been a huge part of this KvK that I have not reflected on this stream is just the voices of the other people in my kingdom. Like, I'm giving my point of view and you're hearing my voice, but I am, my voice is to some degree out on an island, and then there is, a larger group that sort of hangs out in voice chat more often than I do. There's, Adinavo and Captain, who are the two leaders of the two alliances. And they have different points of view, and they put out different vibes. Addy has been like a bit more positive about this KvK the whole time. Something he said on day one, he was like, Brian, we have never lost a long war before. And at the time, that didn't really like matter to me all that much, because what I tend to see in this game is I just tend to see force. I see the strength of our force versus the strength of the enemy force, and I just think like the larger force wins. Like the bigger force just wins, and it's all about marshaling your resources to create as big a force as possible that can beat the opposing force heading in your direction. And that's just sort of all that I see. But, Addy views the game in like a bigger picture way. And so he saw always this possibility that we could stretch the enemy out. And I guess he saw the possibility that maybe a couple weeks later, we could take over some of these zones. And, cut off, force them to lose this shrine, force them to lose their Hyrons. And so he has a different point of view than me. And the people who hang out on voice and who just enjoy fighting and being with their friends and working with a team, they have a different point of view than me as well, right? They don't get as gloomy about it as I do. So, I mean, I've tried to reflect like the real story of this KvK, but truth be told, I'm only telling my story. I'm not telling the enemy's story, and I'm not telling the story of other people on our team. And I undoubtedly realize that their stories are very different than mine. And so I wanted to point that out, because I just think I think I just have like I don't think my point of view is like in the middle of the spectrum. I think the spectrum is more like for our team, I think the spectrum is more like having fun, fought well, made new friends, had a good time, looking forward to the next one. That's one end of the spectrum. The other end of the spectrum is like, got my ass kicked, didn't get good trades, was constantly outnumbered, and this, you know, this type of KvK, this level of competition is just like not what I want from a game, from gaming experiences, and so I'm gonna either like migrate or quit. Like those are the two ends of the spectrum, and I'm like much more like in the middle. And if anything, I'm more on like the negative side, where I'm like, man, this was like so stressful. It sucks to take L's all the time. You know, we've been like basically under 50% to win, like pretty much the whole time. Maybe when I went to bed last night, I thought we were 60%, but like as soon as I woke up, it looks more like 40%. I'm sort of more on that side. And I think there's probably plenty of people in on our team who are like probably feel like I don't represent exactly the way that they view it. I mean, we have to see if Fox can and Fox is a Kingdom 1020. They're Kingdom 1020. I believe they've had like a pretty decent migration in recently, as some old school players have sort of come to this kingdom. But Fox has a tough task here, defending against 2217, which 2217 is a real juggernaut, and has been like an extremely good complement to 1393. Because here's the rally on this flag. Henry Zug rally. Looks like it's going down. That flag is still at very white health. So yeah, that rally is getting swarmed down. This seems to be all... So, I mean, Lost is right here. Lost is pretty much right here, but... And so it was getting swarmed as well. That flag was also getting swarmed. Looks like they're still swarming it. So, I mean, Lost is here. I think that was a painful... I think that was a painful attack for Lost and a very important defense for 1393. I think they probably got the best of that trade by quite a bit. They're going to get this flag up. And, you know, it was just an aggressive attack by Lost. And not a badly chosen attack, because they were right here. Their ball was right here. But yeah, I mean, ultimately that rally got swarmed down. I mean, I think yeah, I guess I don't want to say too much about like the way I view these situations. I mean, you have to go all out. They had to go all out there to try to get this flag destroyed. But, you know, I think when you're going all out like that, I think probably the Henry Zug is not going to be the best rally. Like, when you know the enemy is going to rally you, maybe you throw the Tariq Bakal there. But Henry Zug is like, you know, second or third best choice. Steven, thank you for subscribing. I see it happened about 26 minutes ago, but appreciate the sub. I mailed my boss before I got on stream. Okay, so yeah, my boss did... I had to tell my boss that I was not going to get all the work done today that I was assigned, and so she did take out one of the groups. So... yeah, I mean, the thing is like... yeah. My performance at work has not been very good during this war. And we're 21 days into this war. And... you know, that's part of why I'm not, like, in a great mood, is because, like, I've just sacrificed some stuff for this war. I hope it's not going to cause, like, long-term problems for me at work. but I think I definitely let my boss down a little bit. Okay, so another rally coming in here. They managed to get another rally on this, I guess? Or is this going somewhere else? This must be going somewhere else. Right? Where's this rally going? They're somehow able to touch this flag? How? Alright, well this rally is not going to succeed. Oh, yeah, it wasn't even eligible. So that's interesting that the rally must have been started before this territory got disconnected? Question mark? And so the rally was able to hit the flag, but it didn't do anything to it? But yeah, the time commitment that was required for this war from my part was like a little bit too high, and it affected my work a little bit too much. I probably could have gotten the work done in the last 2 days, to be quite honest. But I just was watching the game a little too often. Yeah, but you know, it's been an experience, if nothing else. It's definitely been an experience. And if we can win this, it'll be the greatest win I've ever been a part of. And I think that's largely why we've been going so hard, is just to have a chance to win. Like, we wouldn't put in all this effort if we thought we had no chance to win. So they're probably going to get a burn here. It'll be interesting to see if 93 was able to like refill and re-captain this flag. Or if this Henry Zug is going to get the quick burn here. Okay, so they do have it defended. And this rally is also getting swarmed down. Alright, so here's a big push by Fox. City rally? Question mark? Where's this go? That is a crazy route. Where's it going? Oh, here's the flag. Okay. Alright, so the open field control for Fox here. Nevsky Justinian rally. They can certainly swarm this if they want to. Looks like there's probably some swarming happening here. My camera's just a little bit messed up, but maybe not. Yeah, I mean, you're seeing that it's just the open field. If you control the open field, you're gonna burn these flags. And I think it's just gonna be a crazy open field fight. Like, it really is. And a lot of what's, because you can see that it's like sort of close, like I will say that, you know, the purple camp, I would say, has a slight advantage in the open field. But because it's like sort of close, what I would say as far as what the key is that it's going to be like, people are going to run out of like speed ups and resources, right? They're going to hit a point where they just can't fight anymore. And then those players are going to be removed from this fight. And I really think the biggest key here, you know, is going to be like which side starts having players get removed because they run out of speed ups. Like, which side is going to have that happen first is really, I think, going to decide who ends up controlling the open field. Now, the other thing that can remove people is downtime. People having to go to sleep, people having to go to work. That's the other thing that can remove people from this fight. And so that's going to be a factor as well. It's going to be downtime and it's going to be speed ups. And, you know, it is, yeah, it's definitely popping off. It's definitely popping off. But I mean, it's kind of stable right now. Like, compared to a couple hours ago, where Purple Camp was really like sort of deep in Turquoise's field, it feels a little bit more stable in some of these places. What's happening over here, though? Yeah, so there's, oh, so this is what's happening. Okay. So 2217's ball is over here. 2217 is putting in work over here. And that's why things are a little bit more even. But then the 2217 ball can come back. The 2217 ball can come back and help where Fox is. And it looks like what the enemy is doing right now is a bit of a bend but don't break type of defense. Now they might lose this flag, but I think we're gonna see a huge purple ball defending this flag in a few minutes. The Tasty Taco says the best kind of KvK is where both sides are 100% committed. Yeah, Taco, I agree. I definitely agree that both sides being 100% committed is the key. And I was pretty sure that everyone would come into this Kingsland committed because I think both sides felt like they had a good chance of winning, which I think is the key to the 100% commitment. Like, when teams and players think they're going to win, they play so much better and they fight so much harder. It is, I mean, I think like leadership can, and like players can like sort of control morale and can, you know, we can sort of influence morale, but I genuinely think the biggest part of morale in this game is just whether each player individually and collectively thinks that they're going to win. And when people think they're going to win, they fight way, way harder than when they're pretty sure they're going to lose. You know, and so, you know, people in the chat are saying that 1034 is not 100% committed. Tasty Taco says, unfortunately not. And then, and I should, let me get your name here, because I know you've been in my chat many times. Oh, it looks like your name translates to Las Vegas Lucky. So I'll just call you Lucky. Yeah, Lucky. Lucky says 1034 has no chance of winning, so not committed. I mean, I think that's entirely possible, right? I just think, like, you know what? I think people are just like smarter than we give them credit for a lot of the time. And you know, I don't try to put too much. I don't put too much energy into like trying to snow my teammates and like make my teammates believe something that I don't believe myself. I think there's something to be said for putting on like a brave front and putting on like a strong front. I personally choose to put on that strong front by just like putting in the time and putting in the effort. And I hope that shows that I'm like, you know, committed to thinking we can win, and or just committed to like literally like fighting as hard as we can regardless. Because I think people just like decide for themselves whether they have a chance to win. And I think a lot of it is based on their trades and like how they feel when they are fighting. And if you're doing well when you're fighting and you're getting good trades, then you just sort of keep coming back. But if you lose over and over again, you just don't come back. And I think that's why we hardly ever see KvKs like this, where literally the King's Land is insanely competitive, and both teams came into it saying, let's go all out, let's try very, very hard. This is my wife's YouTube account. Nice. Well, what should I call you, Lucky? In English, because I know you've been in the chat many times. And I can always just call you Lucky. I can certainly remember that. All right, so Tariq Pakal coming in, the classic Panda. Yeah, the classic Panda, Tariq Pakal. I've faced this rally many times. And the classic Picardy murder ball that's pushing back the enemy around this flag. And I'm sure the swarm is going to come in soon. You know, I think one thing you have to do here is like, you have to bring a lot of reinforcements to this flag, even if you get burnt. Like, even if you get burnt, you have to go through the genuine motions of trying to defend this flag as though you actually will defend it. Like, you cannot I would never half-ass this. I would always be really pushing a lot of reins around this flag. And I would try to have gotten some people located nearby who could reinforce this thing quite a bit. Because you want to punish this. You just want, with the Xenohera and the Swarm on this, you want to punish it. I mean, it's super hard. Like, don't get me wrong, it's super hard to do. It looks like there's a bit of a punish happening here. There's a bit of some decent reigns happening here. I mean, the white numbers... Call me crazy, but these white numbers... Oh, now they look pretty high. Yeah, they're and the garrison got popped. Yeah, so not the worst defense ever, but another burn here for Picardy on a very important flag. This, I would describe this as a very important flag because it's just surrounded by many cities. And then this, I think, this is going to be the next. This is going to be the next focus here. This flag right here. This is not an easy flag to defend. You have to defend this flag with open field control. You know, if the enemy has open field control, this flag gets burnt because there's like basically almost no cities around it. So, I mean, you see Lost is kind of like lurking around this flag, but the lurk, you know, the only thing this lurk is good for is killing people on the way back home. That's the only thing this lurk is good for. Because the enemy ball can simply rotate down here and defend this flag, potentially defend this flag. All right, so we just popped an Alliance Fortress over. I think this is in Champagne. Yeah, so we just popped a fort. We just popped one of their forts here. So we're getting closer to this pass, but this is going to be the last pass that we get. We're going to get this pass first. I think we're going to get this pass first. And then we're going to get this pass. But the real fight for now is very much here in King's Land. Yeah, and you know, look, you know what we could have done in this KvK after we sort of got pushed back very thoroughly in like the first 24 to 48 hours. Well, actually, we had no choice. But I mean, at some point, we could have just like tried to fight Auvergne. I mean, actually, that would, you know what? Honestly, we never even had a choice. But like, what some kingdoms would do, right, is they would just like kind of fight the fight the weaker enemy, they would focus all their energy fighting like the weaker enemy that they can get good trades against. And you know, in that case, they would like definitely lose the KvK. They would never have had any chance of winning the KvK, but maybe they would have had like good vibes, and their players might have enjoyed getting good trades. And even in the KvK that Tasty Taco was talking about, I mean, I give a lot of credit to 2268. I feel like they've played, from what I've seen, I feel like they've played like well. This flag, I'm gonna garrison this flag for real, I guess. But one thing I noticed was that like one thing I noticed was that, you know, yesterday they were like very energized fighting in fighting on the right side against like 1671. Like there were a lot of people, and like from what I could hear from Plato's chat, like the vibes were extremely good. And so like they were fighting, like, you know, they were fighting the weaker opponent, and they were having like a really good time doing it. And it's like a very natural thing that happens. So here's another rally here on this Fox flag. They were having like a really good time doing it because people just like, people are very human in this game. And they if you're winning a fight, they keep playing. And if you're losing a fight, they sort of just like peace out. And so this is such a game of momentum, and it's such a game of like, you know, haves and have-nots, right? If you're the stronger team, then you just always have good vibes. And if you're the weaker team, you frequently have bad vibes. And for me, the whole like interesting thing, the whole thing where for me the game pivots is on how well do you handle the downtimes? How well do you handle losing and potentially give yourself that chance, because you're not the only variable. There are other variables in a KvK. How do you somehow give yourself a chance to still win, even though you're feeling bad most of the time and the enemy is feeling good most of the time? Like, to me, that's where so much of the skill is. You know, anyone can fight when you have the enemy outnumbered and you're pushing them back. Anyone can, you know, lead fairly well when you have open field control and you're pushing the enemy back. Almost anyone can have good vibes when you're pushing the enemy back. But how do you do those things? How do you fight well, lead well, and vibe well when things are not going good? And, you know, quite frankly, I think a lot of kingdoms like don't really even try. Like, oh, I did put gear on this. I'm spewing right now. All right, let me put this Jadwiga back in here. You know, I think a lot of kingdoms just don't really even try to fight super well when they're losing. I think a lot of kingdoms either give up or they just recruit in such strength that they are never in that position. And, you know, I don't envy groups like 1034 or 2268 who are trying to fight 960 at all. I don't envy them at all, because that is a very tough task, and I'm not sure exactly what I would do either. Quite frankly, if I were 2268, I would do exactly what they have been doing, which is picking their spots. Like, 1671 did an aggro fort drop yesterday, and so 2268, you know, got a bunch of people on voice, and they destroyed that fort drop. Like, I would do exactly the same freaking thing, because you have to keep the vibes up and you have to give your players good content. But at the end of the day, if 2268 and 1034 and their allies cannot like deal with 960, then they are just prolonging the inevitable. And you know, and those are interesting choices to make, right? Those are very interesting choices to make. You know, I mean, I guess we could have, like, stopped fighting in this KvK. We could have said, like, oh, this looks pretty rough for us. Okay, so we did just cap this Huron. Although... Oh, okay, okay. Yep. Yeah, so we just grabbed this Huron, which is cool. I assume we're getting this one as well. Wait, that's not it. Where is it? Here it is. We still need to grab this one. I mean, I guess we could have, like, just at some point said, oh, you know what? It's not worth it to zero ourselves and, like, ruin our lives in a KvK that we're less than 50% to win. But, you know, it just never... I don't think it ever really crossed our mind. We just saw, like, things we could do, so we kept doing them. Which is, like... That in itself is a robotic way to play this game. Yeah, I'm talking about, like... I'm sometimes framing it as, like, us being the human team and the enemy being the robotic team. But the truth is, I think a lot of what we do well is that we are pretty robotic and unemotional. We're unemotional about how we play. So this is interesting. This rally got swarmed down very quickly. But the enemy has the open field control here. You're seeing the sad faces on the lost side. So this rally may stay up. There's moving. Moving's like a big whale on the 93 team. Yeah, so we grabbed another one of their Hurons here. Lucky says it does feel bad though to see many creators like Apple and 12-inch using all they got in loose KvK. At that point, was it really worth it? Yeah, I mean, the thing is that, like, I just think you have to go all in. You have to take that step into the dark and give yourself that chance to win. Because if you never step into the dark, if you're never willing to step into the dark, then essentially what you're saying is that, okay, if the enemy is stronger than us, then we will never beat them, and there's no point in us fighting. And then it just becomes a question of, like, matchup. All that matters is your matchup. And I mean, this is why you see so many... This is why you see players going to kingdoms that are already strong. And this is why you see a lot of crazy stuff around matchmaking, where, like, people are trying to get the stronger side of the matchup. But I think if you're going to progress as a group, and if you're going to, like, become better at this game, playing together, then you have to step into the darkness and be like, okay, we're going to go all out even though we might not win. Even though we might not win. Because we have to support, for one thing, you have to support your allies. You know, we had allies on this other side of this map. And the only way for us to win was to soften up the enemy as much as we possibly could. And so that's what we did. And we gave our allies a fighting chance to, we thought, win this KvK for us. As it turns out, we're going to be able to reach them sooner or later. And so we're going to still be able to join this fight. And, you know, also, like, you know, our Koreans started this on holiday, and so we had to step in the dark for them and hope that they would come around later. And they have. Like, our Koreans played a kind of a weird pace, right? They played a kind of a weird pace. But as things have opened up and as the fights have gotten a little bit more doable for us, they've been showing up in better numbers. And the Koreans have been pushing a lot of this. Like, the Koreans pushed a lot of what happened in Champagne. Like, they did a lot of the fort rallies. They're doing a lot of the territory building. Like, this is all N70S right here that's doing all this burning here. 2263 is doing all this burning here in Nevers, and 2263 really had ownership of this this situation here in Nevers, this take back of Nevers. So I mean, I think part of it is that you just kind of, you take a leap off the pier for the people around you. And if you're jumping off the pier, then hopefully the friend next to you is also jumping off the pier. And you know, that's how I like to play the game. Now, sure, sometimes, you know, the thing is, like, sometimes you lose, right? Sometimes you lose and you zero yourself. But like, if you all played super hard and played super tough and had like a great war where you got as much action as you would ever want, and you sort of played in a way that you can be proud of, then what does it matter if you lost everything and lost? Like, I don't think it matters that much. I mean, if you're very account focused, then yes, you lost a lot. Like, I lost all my reserves, right? I had a ton of reserves. I had like tons of like, I had cards, and then I also had like all these like resource choice chests, right? I had years of resource choice chests that I had never touched. It was like my backup. It was my insurance policy. If I ever ran out of resources, I still had like a couple billion in choice chests that I could open. And I used all of them. I used my entire surplus of resources. And like, now I'm even going into these pick one chests. Like, I've also been saving these pick one chests for years. I never had like all that many of them. I had maybe like 90 days or something like that. But in this KvK, I'm going into these pick one choice chests, you know, where like for years I have not had to touch these things. And what I'll do right now is show you another. There's all these reserves. You have like all these reserves in this game, right? So like, here's another reserve that I have. Is in the legendary tavern. I have all these legendary marks that I've gotten over the years from just opening legendary chests and getting commanders I already have maxed. And so this shop reset like I don't know, this shop reset maybe 8 days ago, maybe 5 days ago. I'm gonna guess it reset 8 days ago. And I bought up all the speed ups, the 3-hour speed ups in the last shop. And now what I'm going to do is I'm just going to buy all these. Boom. I mean, I still have some reserves here, but that is what was that? That's 300 hours. So that's like, you know, 12 or 13 days of speed ups that I just got, you know, which I need those speed ups. But quite frankly, I probably am good to go on speed ups in this KvK. Because I'm going through all my reserves. And we might freaking lose. And when it's all said and done, I might have negative ratios in the field. But I'm also going to be like top 10 in contribution. I might be top 5 in contribution. You know, I probably didn't help myself at work at all. I probably hurt myself at work. And I mean, maybe it's foolish. Maybe it's foolish. But you know, at the end of the day, if I as a leader am not going to go super hard and sacrifice like everything I own in the game to try to win, then how can I ever ask any of the R2s or R1s to do that? I just think we all have, I mean, for me in our kingdom, like, we just try to like set an example. Everyone tries to set an example for each other. And if people let us down, yes, in this KvK there have been people who let us down, but there have been way more people who rose to the occasion and were like awesome in this KvK. And I don't know, to me, like, that's worth more than just like running out of resources and losing. Like, I don't know. I just think I just don't I don't play the game casually like that. Lucky says that's what 1034 is doing, it seems, though. They already acknowledged defeat before KvK started. It's just what I feel as a spectator. Birch says they say in KL you will see a whole different 1034 and their coalition. 2 could be the reason only their Krakens fought 2377 1960 yesterday. Yeah, and it's totally possible that that's the case. Look, I don't know if I want to go into this. How do I want to say this? Well, I just don't think the 1034 is what they used to be. You know, I don't think they're quite as strong as they used to be. And, you know, I mean, at the end of the day, everyone is making decisions for their kingdom. And they're not easy decisions, but I mean, I think these people who are running these Imperium kingdoms, in their mind, they always have to think about, like, they have to think about the future. Like, they have to think about the future. And if 1034 can have, like, kind of a decent fight against 960, and it can be, like, a quote-unquote close KvK, which this is... Like, the thing about that KvK is that when I'm watching it, and when I see people talking about it, I still feel like people are talking about it and viewing it as though it's a close KvK. And I'm not close enough to it to, like, say differently. I mean, I see that, like, 960 is, like, dominating the field. I saw, like, on the first altar, 960 just took the first altar uncontested. And I think that was, like, a, I don't know, I feel like the altar should be worth more, almost. Because I feel like if you can just, like, dominate the altar in a contested zone, that means that you're controlling that zone pretty freaking well. Like, they're controlling the altar better than they're controlling the passes. Which is kind of weird, but that's because the forts are everywhere. There's just forts everywhere. Mofo Kyle says show enemy elimination. Good idea. Very good idea. Okay, so this is interesting. 1903 has the top 5 spots in enemy elimination. And most of the top 10. Our allies have the top 14 spots. It's not until you get to the King of 93, Vivian, in 15th place. Okay, Kyle, this was a very good idea, because this is making me feel a bit better. So yeah, I mean, based on this, it definitely looks like 1903 is getting very good trades. And the other thing I would point out here is how few 2217 players are on here. Nathapath still has a lot of power left and has been fighting in this is like one of the main people who has actually, like, fought us, like, randomly in the open field over the last couple days. But what you're seeing from and here's Groot. I mean, what you're seeing from 2217 is that they are sticking together and they are using their ball very judiciously. And they're just, like, getting good value from their ball. But I think what you can see is that 2217 is somewhat limited, right? And, like, if you guys can ever, like, attack their garrisons, you're going to see that they're not going to be able to fill their garrisons much. Because their open field does not want to lose more troops. They want to maintain their current status as a really good ball. But they're not, like, going crazy. Like, 2217 is not going ham here. They're being very, very careful and judicious and smart with their ball. But I like what I'm seeing here. I like what I'm seeing here from 1903. But they're just going to try to burn you guys. Like, they're just going to try to burn you guys out. You know, they're just going to try to, like, push you out of this zone as quickly as they possibly can. And hope that they have enough resources and speed ups to do that. But I mean, you guys are doing exactly what you can. Like, you guys are doing what you have to do, which is you have to win the open field and wear them down. They're going to keep coming back, but, like, at some point, this absurdity cannot continue. Like, an enemy cannot, you know, an enemy cannot just, like, get even traded against us, and then get bad traded against you guys, and then still just be able to go forever. Like, I just don't think that's possible. At least I hope it's not possible. Perch says, but they let their allies take bad trades and get drains if they did that. I don't think anything will change in KL. No, I don't think that's like I mean, I haven't watched it super closely, but I mean, they could have turtled, right? Like 2268 could have turtled to an extent also. Um, I mean, I just think like 1v needed to pick some offensives. Like, I don't know if 1v really did many offensives where like they were getting good trades. I think what you have to do is you have to do some offensives where you get good trades. Maybe you don't accomplish an objective or like a significant objective, but I think you have to do offensives where you get good trades to show that like you're at least trying to wear down the enemy. Because once you get to Kingsland, like what exactly changes? I mean, you're gonna have more teleport spots. You are gonna have more teleport spots on your team, but I don't think that the contours of KL change much in Strife of the Eight. Yeah, you have 5 entrances. They have 3. I mean, it's a slight position of advantage. It's a slight position of advantage for 1034 side, but like how much lower is morale because of the fact that you have just sort of gotten beaten pretty handily in the previous zone? And how much lower is the morale of your allies if your allies feel as if you have let them down? Which I don't know that 1034 has let them down. I have not watched it that closely, but that's the kind of thing that I've heard people saying, and so it may be true. I think the counterfactual would be if 1034 went ham in the current zone and like launched offensives and tried to like burn 960 forts, and then they just drained themselves in zone 6, taking bad trades against a massive 960 ball. I think that could have been worse than like waiting for Kingsland and getting beaten Kingsland. Because at the end of the day, 960, I mean, look, so one of my teammates got hired to be a pilot for 960 like 2 days ago, right? Like they're getting more people to pilot for them halfway through this KvK. You know, it's like you're fighting against multiple kingdoms by fighting against one kingdom. And so I'm going to show my biases here. I'm going to show my biases and be honest about things, even if it hurts my channel. I hope it doesn't, but it might. It very well might. You know, why are we making everything easy on 960? You know, why are we like, oh, well, 1034 had all these tough choices they had to make, and they made those choices badly. Like, why is 1034 getting all the grief when they're fighting against this opponent that is like maybe impossible to beat because of what they do and the way they structure things and the number of human players they have playing their limited set of accounts? I mean, like, here's my question. Has 960, have their players and their leaders, have they ever been in a situation in a KvK for more than like a day where they were worried that they were going to lose? Have they ever been genuinely nervous that they were going to lose a KvK? And if the answer is no, if the answer is that they have never felt real stress from this game, then like, why are we giving so much freaking grief to their enemies? You know? Like, their enemies are going through the grinder. The enemies are the ones that are getting grinded down. The enemies are the ones who, you know, have a very difficult task in front of them. Whereas, like, you know, is 960's task difficult in a 3 vs 5 KvK? Yeah, it's difficult. It's difficult. But, like, if they're never stressed, like, if they're never freaking stressed, if they've never had to step into the deep water themselves, as they constantly dunk their enemies into the deep water over and over again, and if they're doing it because they have a ton of pilots, then why are we giving so much grief to their opponents? So another burnt flag here for 903. As they are winning the open field, but you know, this was kind of the thing that we had. This was the issue that we had at times as well, is that we would maybe get decent trades in the open field, but the enemy just kept coming back. They kept coming back with bigger numbers, right? They might not win the first wave, but they tended to win the subsequent waves. And Turquoise just has to get an answer for that. And I think it just comes down to like your players have to keep coming back. Your players have to keep emptying their hospitals and coming back. And here's a very nice attack by 903 on this flag. Very nice burn. So these balls are sort of avoiding each other. I mean, I like that play by 903. Like the enemy ball is obviously much bigger at this moment. But they got a burn, they got a good trade. And now they can fight on their territory, reform, enjoy getting that win, get everybody back out there, and keep this fight going. But anyway, always curious what other people have to say about my rants. I'm not trying to look, I'm not trying to be judgy about any of this. I totally get that every kingdom is trying to maximize their win condition and also maximize how much fun they have, right? Like winning is fun. And like sort of comfortably winning, but still having like a tough fight that lasts for weeks. That's really fun. So like I have no doubt that 960 is having a ton of fun playing this game. But, you know, as someone who's like a bit on the other side of this, where like we don't really use pilots and like some of our opponents do, I'm just going to tell you that like it's just not very fun. It's like not very satisfying. And I will honestly be, I'm very curious like what's going to happen in 2605. Like, I don't know what 2605's policy towards pilots is, but I think they're going to start fighting against kingdoms that use it a lot. And I just kind of like wonder like how they're going to deal with that. Like what Chiskel, who is like a huge voice in this community, what Chiskel's going to say about it. Because I don't see pilots ending. I don't see a way. I don't really see a good way for Lilith to deal with pilots. I don't think that way exists. But I think it's going to become more and more of a big deal in this game, and it's already a very big deal. And it's just like this. It's like this big problem that like people aren't really talking about, and people may say it's not a problem. And then if it can't be fixed, then what's the point of even talking about it? Like if it can't be fixed, then why say anything about it? Either play the game yourself or lose to it, right? As Chisco once said, like, if something exists in the game, players are going to use it, and you either adapt or you lose to it. And that part I understand, and I can respect that. But I just want to go back to something I said earlier, which is that the people who benefit from pilots are whales. It's people who spend a lot of money. Because if you don't spend a lot of money and don't have a lot of speedups and resources, then there's no point in having a whale. Because you will just use the speedups and resources yourself. And so it's, you know, there's new equipment coming into the game. There's already armaments. Whales can now benefit from having pilots play their account. And the question is this getting ridiculous or not? That's the question. Is this getting ridiculous or not? And I'm on the front lines of this. I'm on the exact front lines of this. And I have played a lot of KvKs in this game. I've lost some big KvKs. I've won some big KvKs. And you know, it's just weird. It's just weird. It's weird to lose, like we lose like the first 1 or 2 days after a pass. Like, we lose the first 1 or 2 days pretty hard. The enemy gets a lot of territory. And then we, like, basically gain, like, small wins, like, the next 5 or 6 days. Like, after we got pushed back to this fort wall in this zone, right? We got pushed back to this fort wall in, like, a day. The enemy maybe tried to, like, rally the forts for, like, a day or two. We fought him in the open field, like, at Urde Fort for, like, a day or two. You know, they won the first couple days. But then we kind of like won the next like 5 days. We didn't win them big, but we did like an offensive over here. We had like a decent trade when they dropped a fort in our face. We won some fights right around here one night. We kind of burned them in a pretty big fight over here one night. So like they win the first 2 days, we win the next 5 days. The next pass opens, they win the first 2 days, we win the next 5 days. I don't know, it's kind of weird. Just kind of weird. Kind of weird to like win most days of the war, but lose the actual war. It's kind of weird to like just trade with people like pretty well, but they still have just an absolute ton left. I don't know, kind of weird. Not the most satisfying experience. For, you know, a pretty skill-based game that's pretty meaningful to people. It's just kind of weird. Licky says piloting really should be a bannable offense, but it won't happen as whales are doing it. Yeah, I don't think there's an easy way to combat it at all. I don't think there's an easy way to combat it at all. Loco, welcome to the stream. Glad to have you here. So what happened with this flag? Yeah, so this flag is still being defended. As predicted, they would bring a lot of open field here and just make it very difficult for Lost to finish off this flag. You know, I think Lost and Fox are you know, they're going through it right now. Although they are burning here, so Fox is burning here. Alex is burning here. It's almost like the balls are avoiding each other to some extent. It's really quite interesting. Oh, you know what? I need to like set my captains over here. Just like randomly remembering certain things. Alright, so here's Lost pushing in on this flag. They have pretty good numbers here. I think they're going to overrun them. One other thing you can do here is have timers and hold your rally, and then release the rally once the open field looks favorable for you. Which, you know, Lost, that may or may not be what happened with Lost here, but they have very good timing here, and I would think that they're going to get a burn here, and I think finish off this flag. I think it's, what, 720 per minute? I really should know if this is the last burn, but I actually don't. I forget how many ticks of this burn per minute, but anyway, a pretty important burn here, because this is a pretty important flag. Jan Hera Garrison, Nevsky Justinian Rally. It's getting melted. Yeah, I mean, the thing with Picardy is, like, if you can ever get through their open field, their garrison game is not that good. You know, if you can ever get through their open field, you can burn them, but it's just hard to get through their open field. And I give Lost a lot of credit for getting through it here. I mean, to take a step back, here, like, honestly, Lost is, like, all in all, I think they're dealing with this pretty well. Like, they're competing. They're definitely competing with this. Who's this? Boss? Not a very familiar... I haven't seen this guy much at all. Yeah, so I mean, this boss guy, right? This boss guy. Look at this boss guy. Last KvK, 9 million units killed. Almost 14 million in the hospital, as though, like, someone was barely managing this account at all. But he's just out here swarming flags in Kingsland. You know? Just out here swarming flags in Kingsland. No big deal. Literally, I just, like, picked a guy. I picked a guy whose name I hadn't seen much. To check out what, you know, I was like, oh, I haven't seen this name much. I mean, I guess it's a real person. I mean, they play Ark all the time, so... I'm probably wrong. Like, I'm probably I'm probably seeing ghosts that aren't actually there. I mean, I will say that, so there's another... Yeah, so okay, so now we're seeing Auvergne. Now we're seeing Auvergne start to apply pressure to 903. 903T. Okay, so 903 has... 903 has, well, really just one alliance. 903T is pretty small. 1020 has 2 alliances. But we're starting to see Auvergne connect to 903 down here. Let's get an update on this front here. 313 rallying this Flavius flag. Auvergne does have a good garrison game. I will give Auvergne a lot of credit. They do have a good garrison game. But 313 is on the attack there. Here, everything is healing. Everything's healing here. And then down here, what's going on? And then down here, everything is healing too. This is a pretty important front down here to the south. Yeah, Energist says we have one alliance, others are just farms. Yeah, I got confused for a second because I saw 903T with all this territory, and I was like, oh, maybe they have 2 alliances, but yeah. I mean, if I take a step back, I think I was hoping for too much. That like my side was gonna like win this zone, like convincingly be ahead in this zone. I think that was hoping for too much. Oh, this flag got burnt again. Oh yeah, I did see this, right? I did see this. So this flag is probably gonna go down. But 903T, this flag is very key right here. This flag says a lot. This flag says a lot. This flag is still up, which is interesting. This flag's burning too. It's very back and forth. It's very fluid. I think what's crazy is that this is a very fluid situation. Like it's hard to make heads or tails of it as a spectator, but if I were involved in this, it would be even more difficult to make heads or tails of it. Because you're having to fight, and yeah, at the end of the day, like you almost don't even want to assess. Like my problem is that in these situations, I'm always assessing whether like we're winning or losing. And I'm like often like vocally sharing my assessments on voice. But I think the truth is you have to get very mechanical here. You have to get very, very mechanical. You have to figure out what flags you want to defend. You have to communicate that to your players. You have to get a lot of reinforcements to those flags. And then your ball movement and the focus of your ball has to constantly change. And you have to deal with the ups and downs of your ball getting destroyed or you destroying the enemy ball. You can't overextend. You have to play offense but also play defense. I mean, it's a very tough situation. I would be, for where I'm at right now in this KvK, where I'm not fresh and I'm pretty grumpy, like I would probably be not handling this great. And so if I'm not handling this great, then I just think I'd have to be like make it very simple. I would just make everything so freaking simple. I would direct us to a point where we have a decent chance of success. I wouldn't necessarily direct our ball to like a point that I wouldn't necessarily send us to the most important place. I would send us to a place where we have a chance of success. I would make sure our garrisons are in very like good shape. And for me, I would just like, I would like just hard defend every flag. Like to me, the simple thing is just hard defend every flag instead of like making like nuanced decisions about which ones you defend and which ones you don't. But this is a very good push from Lost here. Like you're seeing a lot of players come in. Like, they have a very good push coming to here. Obviously, so you see a lot of enemies also. But I think this is like the 93 ball, and I think the 2217 ball is somewhere different. And I think that these two groups have like sort of been like not working as closely together as they used to. Which I don't know why that is, and that maybe I might be projecting about that, because again, they are performing very well in this Kingsland. Like, they took a few days off, but they're performing very well in this Kingsland. But I think this fight is probably going to be a win for Lost here. Like, this particular fight right here. We're seeing a lot more sad faces on 1393. So they're building another flag here. But this can be attacked. Like, this flag they're building can be attacked. So there's probably a rally coming up on this flag. And Lost just needs to clear this ball here. Which it seems like they're doing it. It seems like they're clearing them right here. King skill popped by 1393. Groot is there with his Huo, which undoubtedly hits extremely freaking hard. So Lost getting pushed back a little bit. I don't know if it's a pull-in or if it's a retreat. The sad faces are still very heavy on 93's side. There's a couple of Lost sad faces, but they're followed up by two more on 93. You know, the way I would dream of this day going is just that there was a very strong initial surge by the enemy, but that Lost and their allies ultimately have more resources and more speed ups left. And so as the day goes on, more of them will be able to keep coming back to the fight. That would be the dream. It's hard for me to believe in that because I have not seen it happen yet with this group. I have not seen it happen yet with this group. But I mean, if you're getting very good trades over and over again, then at a certain point, I think the enemy does crack, right? They just can't take bad trades forever. They have to keep using speed ups to empty their hospitals. And so here's Fox again. I'm gonna stay on this fight. Obviously, I'm aware that shout out to Paco. Shout out to Paco. Yeah, there's plenty of players on the opposing side are undoubtedly very cool and are part of very strong kingdoms that have put us through the ringer. So shout out to Paco and all the other cool heads on the other side. Okay, so is this repairing? So a Zug garrison. It's over. So that one burned again. I don't even know if they put it out, but anyway. Here comes another. Okay, so here's the rally on this building flag. This is key. But they pushed them out. This was a great push. Great push by 1903. Great push. Pushed them right as this rally was hitting. They have the ability now to keep this rally full, even if it gets swarmed, which it undoubtedly is getting swarmed. It is getting swarmed. And so they have to keep this rally up. They have to keep this rally up. And they probably need a Tariq Bakal, to be honest. Okay, so this rally's going down. This rally's going down. This is where, like, micro is so big. This is where micro... You need really strong players who have good micro, where they can not only reinforce this rally, but they can also attack the swarmers that are swarming it. Like, there are people swarming this, and you just have to protect them. They're keeping it up. It might be going back up. We gotta look at the white numbers. The white numbers on the Garrison are pretty high, getting higher and higher, getting higher by the second. 20k white numbers. That rally's getting heavy pressured. That rally's getting heavy pressured. The Nevsky Justinian just does not punish the swarm enough. The trades are okay, but it's not a punish. It's not a punish. It's usually a positive trade for the swarmer. Oh, these swarmers are undoubtedly running their marches down. I think this flag is going to go down. Yeah, I think Lost is doing enough. Good attack. Really good attack there. Really big win there. Really nice, really big win. That rally got pressured so hard. Like you would love to have the Henry Zug or the Tariq Pakal in that spot, but you know the Nevsky Justinian got the job done. Or quite frankly, I think the Nevsky Joan might have gone down. So at least Justinian is a bit of an upgrade. But I mean, you know, like that defense is not great by 93 there. Like, if you have some open field presence with which 93 had open field presence there. They were able to swarm the rally. You have cities surrounding this newly built flag, and you can't take a Nevsky Justin rally down. You know, you can't take a Nevsky Justin rally, like the third or fourth best rally in the game for that situation. I mean, not a great defense. And the offense was good enough. So that flag goes down. This flag will be lost. This flag will not extend. There's going to be an open space here. There's going to be an open space that either team will compete for. Pretty good clear right here by Lost. The other thing I'll say, and you know, obviously people from 903 who are watching my stream can pass this on to their teammates, but one thing that 1393 is very bad at is they are very bad at reforming their balls. Like, they don't reform a ball. They don't like put a marker back here and reform their ball. They just all keep running back to the fight. They all keep individually running back to the fight. So what you can do is you can keep, within reason, you can keep going, and you can like basically stop their ball from forming. Like, you just kind of like disrupt their ball from ever forming in the first place. Now, you obviously don't want to overextend with that. And like maybe Lost is overextending here, maybe. I mean, their ball's like kind of small at this point, but you see what's happening, right? Like, the enemy is just running right back into them. They're not reforming a ball anywhere back. They're just all just coming back to the fight. They're all just coming back to the fight. And so like if Lost has like another push here, which they don't really have, their players are kind of like standing back here. Like, if they were ready to like disrupt a ball that had not formed yet, I think they probably could have like cleared a lot of these players as well. It's hard. It's a real balancing act. It's a real tightrope to do that. But just be aware that like these guys don't reform a ball. They don't reform a ball. They just all come back to the fight on their own. And they're able to do that because they're like huge whales, right? So they don't have to play with like a ton of finesse. They can just like come back and still get pretty good trades. Throw a like on the stream if you're enjoying this content. This action has actually been really good. Like, part of me is like rooting for one side, and so I'm not like super like, I'm not thrilled by what's happening, but I don't really like dislike what's happening either at this point. Like, it seems pretty okay at this point. Like, hard to say, touch and go, very touch and go, but if I was just like an impartial observer, this action would be fantastic. Like, this would be really, really good action if I was an impartial observer. And so on some level, I need to like put myself... Yeah, so 2217 is down here, just burning. You know, they're being very productive with their ball. So I think what's probably going to happen is that 2217 is going to come down and attack 313. Right? I think 93's job is to hold against 903. And then 2217 is going to come down here and be the difference maker against 313. Because they've well, eased up too much on Fox, but they haven't but they've eased up a little bit on Fox. Like, they didn't connect here. You know, they didn't connect here. They might let this, they're probably going to let this flag go, I'm guessing. So I think maybe they're going to try to get 313 out of the zone first with 2217. Because I can tell you right now that 2217 is going to be like a major problem for the next like 8 hours probably. Like this ball's going to stick together, and they're just going to get like a lot of work done. So, but I mean, they have the river. It's tough. I don't want to. Yeah, I mean, so like if I were in charge of Lost, what would I do here? Honestly, I honestly think it's correct to just keep fighting here. Like, if you have things going well here, you cannot, like, you can't throw that away. Like, if you have good things happening here, you just keep them going. You cannot throw that away. Even if, like, what's happening down here south is pretty troubling or concerning, let's say. Even if what's happening down here is concerning, in that 2217 is just they're just like a real factor. And like, you kind of want to be pressuring these guys more than 93. But like, I would never disrupt the good things that are happening up here. I would just never do it. Yeah, really interesting. I mean, I think what we're seeing here is that... Well, what's happening here? A little swarmy? A little swarmy swarm? Doesn't seem worth. Doesn't seem worth. I guess they defended here. I guess they defended against that rally there. Algebra, welcome to the stream. Algebra says 1903 open field gods will pull through. I think there's a real opportunity here to get some very good trades against 93. Against just 93, where 2217 is not really here, I think there's a good chance to get some. There's a chance to get some very good trades here. And so Fox is pushing back a little bit here. Oh, Fox is not going to be connected, though. Fox is no longer going to be connected to this flag, unfortunately. They might get one more burn, but then they're not going to be connected. So yeah, this is like a pretty touch-and-go spot here, where it's like, can Turquoise progress in this spot here? I mean, they're burning them here, but I guess this... Yeah. Losing this flag is pretty key. Like, this flag is pretty key right here. It gives this flag a chance to heal, and it gives this flag a chance to heal. I wonder what's going to happen when this flag dies. Can this rally keep going? Okay, it looks like I might have to go extinguish something, but I really want to see what happens here. The thing is like, if 1903 can deal with 393 on their own right now, and then 393 goes to bed, then 903 can definitely deal with 2217. Oh, they do. They must have another flag touching. Oh, this flag extended. Okay, so this flag extended, so they can take this flag down. Let me check this real quick. All right, this guy's on it. Paco's over here. What's Paco up to? What? Paco finally burned this flag. I didn't know why they never burnt this flag. This flag's been empty for like 12 hours. I was like, basically I built this flag because I was thinking maybe this flag could touch this fort. Because like it does touch the fort. I thought maybe we could skip this fort. So I just tried to build this, but it didn't work. Because the funny thing was that like over here, right here, like they had a flag line. JL-17 had some flags in front of this fort. But once we touched the fort with this flag here, we were able to burn this fort even before the flags were done. It was kind of interesting. Oh, I need to check Discord. All right, so I think this is probably a good opportunity to end the stream. There's some stuff I need to do. It's been a few hours, so I mean I could keep streaming because this is like incredibly interesting, but I probably shouldn't. I should not stream all day. There's other things I need to do. So I do appreciate everybody hanging out. Thank you, Lucky, for being on the stream, Algebra for being here, Mr. George, Lambo, all the members and all the chatters. Thank you for the likes. Thank you for everybody from the opposing camp as well as all the people from 1903 and friends for being in the chat. I wish you all the best of luck. We will keep watching, but looks like I'm being pulled away to do some stuff. So yeah, I'm gonna wrap up the stream here, and I will see you all on the flip side. And I may redirect you to somebody else. Let me see if anybody else is streaming. Oh, I can. I'm gonna redirect you to Only Farmer. She is streaming the KvK I was talking about earlier, the 960-1034 KvK. So go ahead and let Only Farmer know that it's a Brian raid when you get into the chat over there. And yes, thank you for all your support. And let's just go ahead and support another YouTube ROK content creator, Only Farmer, who also does great work. So I'm going to send you over to Only Farmer now. Brian raid.